Greetings and Hotep. I, AleneDortheaAtkins, being in sound mind and body, under the penalty of perjury, affirm, that what I am about to say is true to the best of my knowledge. I do not get any of my mail. My mail was forwarded by my family to two different boxes. 13thCircuit56, my oldest and only brother, to my knowledge, had a box, and Alva Atkins, my oldest sister, Alva Melreen Atkins, my oldest sister, had a P.O. box. I submitted it to the court, to the 13th Judicial Circuit Court, 82 something. I can't remember it. It's 4 numbers. Now, I have been asking my siblings for my mail so that I could go to court because I'm suffering from identity theft and mortgage fraud. I am alleging that my family, along with fake friends, met regularly to come up with a scheme and plot so that they all could spirit cook me. What do I mean when I say spirit cook? They all came up with a way that they could get some portion of my money, leaving me with nothing. I am alleging that they were hoping that I would end up sleeping on the streets, where they would send someone to kill me, and that way everybody could keep the portion of my wealth that they stole, and they wouldn't have to worry about paying it back or going to jail or even being found out. Okay, where it really got bad, I, along with my 4 of my 5 children, and my nephew, Alexander Malik Thompson, for about a little under a year, were living at 6010 North 32nd Street, my childhood home, without my brother Anthony. He had moved out to somewhere else. We didn't know where he was living. I was paying lights, water, even though the cable was in Anthony Atkins's name. I paid the cable bill. I worked for People Ready. My assignment was with a company called ABM, and my job site was at Rogers Park Golf Course. I don't know what happened. My twins turned 18 on May 26th, 2022. On June 2nd, 2022, 4 Hillsborough County Sheriff officers and 4 Tampa police officers, spearheaded by Hillsborough Sheriff Officer Say, that is S as in Sam, A as in Apple, E as in Ever, Y as in Yard, said I had to leave. I told him to call the supervisor because I had put in a motion for stay with Chief Judge Ronald Figueroa. He got on his radio thing and claimed the judge denied it. That was on my YouTube Leelee, Leelee, which they figured out a way to block me out of. The last time I checked it, I had 39,000 views on that clip. Now, A Plus Properties, a fraudulent business LLC, evicted me. Evelyn Rizzardo was the property manager, along with a thin Spanish man that was with her, was assisted by Hillsborough County Sheriff Officer Rodriguez. That's what was on his name tag. I really think he is the same person who mishandled me, violated my rights while I was peacefully protesting back with the hanging chads and the gore and George Bush fiasco took place. Myself and my son took large picket signs the size of doors. It said honk for revote, and we were peacefully protesting on the sidewalk in front of the supervisor of elections office, which was Pam Iorio at that time. Officer Gruau came along and said, "Oh, we're cleaning up the signs and you got to give me the signs." And I said, "Well, I'm actively protesting." I was on the sidewalk, and this man took my signs, arrested me, took me over to the Orient Road Jail. Falkenberg, excuse me. Falkenberg Jail. I said, "Well, why are you holding me here?" Which would be kidnapping, because he had no right to have me there. He looked at me and laughed. He, along with, I think it was about 4 other people, like 3 tall, brolic white men, Caucasian men, and a Caucasian white female, kind of chubby. They went in the back and concocted a story that said I tried to yank the sign out of his hand and he arrested me. And so the destroying of my life continued. They put me in handcuffs in the back of a sheriff car. They put my child, about 10 years old at this time, in the back of a police car. The female officer that detained him illegally asked him his phone number. He said he didn't know it. She said that he was lying. We had just recently changed our phone number. He was not lying. This trauma continues because these officers continue to do these little illegal side jobs. Maybe they're being paid. Maybe I was being, what do you call it? Harassed because I was an activist. Okay. It seems to me that the same person that came and helped put me out of my childhood home, the officer said his name was Rodriguez. That's what was on the badge. But he looked like an aged Officer Gruau. They could be 2 different people. They both seem to be of Hispanic race. Officer Gruau, back during the time of the Gore and Bush campaign, was a community officer, or he at least had a community officer badge on him. He identified himself as a community officer when he came to take my signs and halt my protest. Now, I'm leaving the protest years ago and coming back to June 2nd, 2022, when 4 Hillsborough County Sheriff officers and 4 Tampa police officers flooded my yard like they were coming to get a real criminal. I mean, not like an eviction, like they were coming to get somebody who had kilos and kilos and kilos of illegal substances. Now, I don't know what they put on the paper, because I am learning that when people want to get away with crimes, they lie on paperwork, even uniformed officers. And this saddens me to know, but okay. That was June 2nd, 2022. My family, my 4 children and I, Amun, my twin son, went with Anthony. My 3 girls and I were driving in the car that Lawrence Alexander Cambridge gave me, a 2011 Dodge Caliber. The only vehicle I was able to save because I called the police and they told me that the sidewalk was public property. I could drive my car across the street and I would be able to keep it. Mind you, my business papers, the projects that I was working on, my passport application, along with the picture that I had taken for my passport, was in the house, along with other very sensitive papers. They refused to give me my lawn equipment. I did ask. They refused to give Johnny Will Lofton, who was there while they were taking out some of the stuff. It wasn't on the same day, on the second. They refused to give him his walker. These people were visibly addicts of some kind of drug, I think meth, from the little that I know. Looking on TV, researching meth, because they, and I don't really know who they were, the water bottle that was given to me, it was said that the deacon gave me the water bottle. My brother is a deacon, so I believe my brother had something to do with this. I gave the water bottle to my daughter, and it had little pieces of what she thought was glass. She said, "Mom, there's glass in the bottom of this water bottle." I said, "What do you mean?" So I dumped what was left out into my hand, and it was little clear crystals. So I went to my phone and I said, "What drug looks like glass?" And this is where I started to research about methamphetamines. So I'm assuming and alleging that my brother was going around to different homeless people that give out the food. So ministries that give out the food and paying them to give us food that was tainted with methamphetamines because they planned to hem me up some kind of way and say that I was selling drugs and I was using drugs. The only problem is, the truth is, I've never used any drugs. I don't drink. I don't prostitute. And I work really hard to live a decent life and to perform as an activist, an advocate for social change. So the only way they could destroy my image was to make sure I didn't have a place to stay. I couldn't keep myself clean, couldn't keep my children clean, clean clothes, and then to start actually putting inside of our bodies these drugs. Oh, Lord, help me. My food was drugged several times. I started to not eat because everything was in disarray. And when you don't have family to go and bunk with, when you get evicted, if you don't have money in the bank, if you don't have the means to continue to go to work, your life is plummeted down to the ground. And when you're down on the ground, the only way you get up is by a miracle from God. People will give you $20 here, $20 there. They'll give you $100. But when you're down on the ground, you need consistent help to restructure your life. I kept thinking that Cheryl Thomas, the judge, who was over the so-called foreclosure, there's a lot of just corruption, pretend that went on. And I went and talked to my chief judge, Ronald Figueroa, over 10 times. The court administrator, Rick Melendi, stopped by his office, that little window that you have to push the button and wait until somebody comes out, give the people the paperwork, have them stamp it that they received it, and nothing happened but more corruption. So Tamika Jones was the name, the clerk that was stamped on the eviction, the illegal eviction, the illegal detainer eviction forms. The court clerk's seal was Tamika Jones. My last daughter, her father's family's name is Jones, Abraham Vada Jones. I didn't put it together at that time. The notary seal was Evelyn Rosado. So when I went on to Florida Biz and started trying to find information out about A Plus Properties, the owner, Eric Allen, Erick or Erick, Allen, Alin was the last name. These people didn't exist. I came across Terry Lewis, which is a friend of my brother's. He does this fine homes for investors to flip, and they give them like $1,000 to $2,000 for finding them a property. There was no active forms for A Plus property. Fraudulent paperwork. When I went to authenticate that Evelyn Rosado was really a notary public, I found that she was not a notary public. So I went back to the court asking for a motion to stay and returned back to the house. I was met with Tamika. Tamika didn't tell me her last name, but I'm assuming it was Jones. I gave her a packet for her to send up to the judge. She said, "We already got that. I'm not going to send that up." So she sent up what she wanted to send up. I said, "That's okay. I want you to give it to the judge again, so the judge doesn't have to go looking for anything." It was a complete packet. So she didn't want that illegal detainer with Evelyn Rosado's fake notary stamp going up. And she didn't do it. And I couldn't make her. So moving forward, my children and I, it's the summertime. We're moving around, pillow to post, trying to really work on getting back into our home. That's what I thought would happen. That didn't happen. My daughter ended up, because she was 18, she could stay at the Good Samaritan, and they allowed us to stay in the lobby area for a little bit of time. And I was thankful, despite the severe bed bug bites, I was thankful to be able to keep my family together. And I'm very grateful for that time. There came a time when they put us out of the lobby. Some lady named Heidi claimed she worked for John Watson, the owner, and she was going to help us through some Catholic organization get stabilized. So I asked them if they could help me by getting me an attorney. They didn't want to get me an attorney. They wanted to get the first month paid on an apartment. None of that materialized. They did pay a month for my daughter, Atkins, which she doesn't come up under my name because the 13th Judicial Circuit Court kidnapped, stole, and terminated my parental rights to my twins, born May 26, 2004. I am alleging that that was backlash because I was talking about police brutality in Tampa on my Reality Speaks talk show at the Speak Up Tampa Bay public access TV station, and on Straight Talk, which was hosted by Connie Burton. That was at the WMNF public access radio station. Now, nobody will verify that this was retaliation, but They told lies. They got doctors to lie and say that I was crazy, I was unfit, I was a danger to my twin babies. And they gave me a bunch of court-appointed attorneys that were maliciously incompetent. They were trying to throw me under the bus. The last and probably most damaging was attorney Barbara Twine Thomas, who seems like she was rewarded with becoming a judge after she destroyed my life and killed my activism. Barbara Twine Thomas said to the judge, "Judge, she crazy. She ain't taking her medication." That was her defense. Now, I had already prepared, typed up my motion to dismiss. There was never any probable cause to take my children. So I asked her to file the motion to dismiss. My so-called court-appointed attorney told me no. Barbara Twine Thomas told me no. And she did what she thought was best. Judge, she crazy. She ain't taking her medicine. Now, the Tomasis, who own and ran RTI, Records Transcripts Incorporated. Giselle was the secretary or receptionist at the front desk. They intentionally sabotaged all of my court hearings. I paid good money for it. When I got it, they would put, "Oh, it's inaudible, two people talking at the same time," and they just deleted it from the records. This broke me because that's what I was going to use to prove that I had been violated in many ways. The appeal, my appellate court appointed attorney was Attorney Robbins, Robbins. He pretended that he was sick with cancer, and for 6 months he couldn't talk to me. So I don't know if God really did give him cancer for the evil that he did, but if he is still alive, I'm sure he has some appellate appeals paperwork. My stomach's starting to hurt. It really, I gotta stop. Please don't let me cry. I'm strong. I am mighty. I am woman. I am God. Okay, so I'm going to change that subject. The 13th Judicial Circuit Court corruptly handled me in pretty much every case that was presented to the court with my name, AleneDortheaAtkins. As an activist, I guess they figured they didn't want me highlighting what black people who were abused, thought to be corrupt ways of being. And so the backlash was they stole my children, they destroyed my life, they destroyed my teaching career by bogusly arresting me for peacefully protesting and lying and saying that I resisted arrest without violence. And when you don't have a job, can't get a job, or being blocked from employment, your life just continues to plummet down unless you have a support system where people will help you. And my people wanted to prove that I was nothing. They coined me a goody two-shoe because I did not get passed down alcoholism, which my family is a family that struggles with the disease of alcoholism. And they made me out to be the black sheep because I was the only one that didn't drink, smoke, or prostitute in time of need. We ended up going into Dr. Twiggs's building. I know Dr. Twiggs because Dr. Twig was my dentist. In my teenage years and my young 20s, Dr. Twiggs, Rudolph Levi Twiggs, was my dentist at 3304 East Hillsborough Avenue. I had gone to his office on Waters and told him I lied. I said, I moved into your building. He was like, oh, no, no, you can't. I was like, okay, I'm just joking. I was hoping that he would say, okay, no problem. What's going on? And, how long do you think you need? At the time, this building was in my neighborhood. I walked past it all the time. And I was like, Lord, I would like to use this building for my club wannabe. If you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be an engineer, you come to Club Wannabe, and we have doctors, lawyers, engineers, retired, that will help you with math, help you with getting the credits that you need, help you with your applications to college, help you by being in your ear and telling you you can do it, and helping you with things you need. You need a scientific calculator. You need books. We're going to be able to pay for the books. I think they've stolen this idea and promoted it themselves. My fake friends and family, probably Donnie, Dwayne Flowers, Natalie Renee Carnegie, maybe Ava Raquel Atkins, my sister, maybe Anthony Catharteris Atkins. I'm not sure. When we were sleeping in a laundromat called Grand Wash, which is across the street from Dr. Twiggs's building, behind Mr. Money Broker Pawn Shop, which is right on the corner of 34th and Hillsborough. The laundromat Grand Wash is right behind there. If you get in there before 11 o'clock, you technically can stay in there, and they have strong magnets on the doors, and you're pretty safe. That worked for a little while until drug addicts found out about it and they start sleeping in there, and then I couldn't sleep because I was trying to watch my children and make sure everything was okay. Some event happened in the bathroom where the lady, I don't even know when she came in there, but the guy was there regularly. They were in the bathroom and they started fighting, I'm assuming over a crack pipe. So all we heard was blah, 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 blah. So I woke my children up, and God is so good because before we went to sleep, God said, put everything in that big black bag. And normally we had, 2 bags each child was holding, and I would hold 2 bags. And then we had a little small dog and a kitten. So normally everything was strode out, but God told me that night, put everything in this black bag. So everything was in the black bag. I was trying to stay awake, but I was tired. So I went to the front of the laundromat and just rested on a bench. And I heard the door open. By the time I got up, I didn't see anybody. These people were coming in through the roof, and whatever happened, I left my phone. When we heard all the rustling, I woke my children up. I said, let's get out of here. I don't know what's going on in there, but it sounded like somebody's being killed. And we left the laundromat. We rolled the laundry buggy up to Taco Bell and Burger King on East Hillsborough. Cast judgment on these demons. Cut cords. Return our energy back to us. Michael, protect us as I give this account. So, what is it, Bobby? What is it? What is it? So after it got daylight, I told my daughter, go. I left my phone. We got to go back. When we went back, Andrew, what's Andrew's last name? I know him because he worked with my mom, or he was a student when my mother worked in culinary arts at Irwin. My mom did well, they gave her credit for 27 years. She did 32 years with the school system in the cafeteria, starting out at Brewster, ending up at Irwin in culinary arts with Mr. Mack. So I met Andrew through my mom. He was there at the Irwin. He was in the laundromat washing clothes. I thought that was suspicious, but okay. I called the owner of the laundromat and said, "Hi, I left my phone, my charging cord, and my charging plug." I said where it was. I said we were the last one that were in the laundromat. So the lady that worked there, she drove a beige colored, light beige or ivory PT Cruiser. She gave me my phone and my cord and my plug. She seemed a little upset, and then we left. Now, it had gotten very cold, and it was getting dangerous in the laundromat because more of the addicts were coming to take refuge in the laundromat. So I said, Lord, I had called Dr. Twiggs and asked him to please leave the key under the mat, and I would pay him for the year of us being there. I said, I'm going to go over here and check and see if Dr. Twiggs left the key under the mat. My children stood across the street in front of the, what is that? What's the name of that place? It's an auto sales place. I can't remember the name. Directly across the street. And the door was open. When I say open, I mean it was gapped open and you could just walk right in. So I went over, I said, hello, is anybody in here? I walked through the building, nobody was in there. I told the girls to come on, let's go take refuge. And we did. So that had to be I want to say between August and September. Well, wait a minute. We lost the dog, and I had to make a lost dog flyer. That was October 17th when the dog got missing. The date of the flyer. It was before we were in there by Halloween. So, of course, at some point, Dr. Twiggs came, Kenneth came, and the whole rigmarole of why are you here in the building? I explained my situation. Dr. Twiggs came and he said, listen, you can't really be here. I said, Dr. Twiggs, I can pay you for the year. Give me a price, let me know. He said, we'll talk later. My brother intentionally interfered with my money coming. If my money had come, I would probably still be in that building because as a security guard, I could have been the on-site security. And I would have paid Dr. Twiggs for being in the building. It had running water. It had no electricity. That was not a problem for us. We were thankful to be inside of a building and be safe. I was evicted from that building. I kept checking on my money. It never came. However, money has come to the mailbox at 6010 North 32nd Street. And I found out that my sister and my brothers have cash checks that were made out to me. I didn't get $1 of it. They didn't even let me know. I had to find out after the fact. If I had gotten those monies, I would have paid Dr. Twiggs for the year. We would have negotiated a price, and I would probably still be there in good standing. But as it stands, I was evicted from that building July 26th of 2023. The eviction papers said Tamika, Suttle, or the spelling was Suttel. I can't recall. But I thought this is the same Tamika, the same clerk, I'm assuming, at the 13th Judicial Circuit Court. Maybe she got married or maybe she got divorced and went back to her maiden name. I don't know. So after leaving there, we immediately, no, we slept in the parking lot of Kentucky Fried Chicken for 2 days. An angel came and handed me a $100 bill and a $50 bill. I took that $150 to the storage unit, paid for the first month, and started walking what we thought was important. I had my tables and a setup for my school inside of there. So I had thrown things on the lawn because I figured if they're going to evict us, let's get what we can get, because once they lock this place up, we're not going to get back in here. They'll tell you, oh, you can come back later and get your things. And most of the time they never honor that. So I told the girls, this is it. Let's toss this stuff out on the lawn and God's going to make a way. So the angel came, handed me $150, saw what was happening, and Sergeant Stein of the Hillsborough County Sheriff Department was there, and he was rather professional. The Tampa Police Department representative, seems like his name was Pepolowski, so I think they make up names when they're doing corrupt things that they're not supposed to be doing. They make up names. So I don't really think that was his real name, but he kept saying, let's just arrest her. Let's just arrest her. I said, see, that's what you wanted to do when you came here. You just wanted to make an arrest. And I started talking about my activism and what happened with the mortgage fraud. And he didn't want to hear any of that. I said, please call the FBI at 813-253-1000. And you call them and see if we're okay to be here, because I was sending messages to the FBI asking them for witness protection and letting them know I wanted to stay at the building, but I wanted them to have agents around protecting us, as opposed to them coming and picking us up and taking us to a safe house. Tampa Police Officer Pepolowski said he called. He got in the car, closed the door. I said, well, why wouldn't you call in front of me and put it on speaker so I could hear? Of course, because he was putting dirt in the game. So he said, oh, no, there's nothing with you and the FBI. I said, okay. So we stayed 2 nights. The first night we stayed in front of the pawn shop because it was well lit. We walked our sofa over there and sat there and took turns sleeping just a little bit. A Caucasian guy came and asked me if I was selling Bertha. Bertha was a antique lawn mower used to cut the green on the golf course, and I got it from Gary. Gary has a business right down from the Rogers Park golf course, and I was explaining to him that I was working to create a relationship with Toro so that they would teach girls how to fix lawnmowers. And did he have anything there that we could be working on? And he donated that to me. It was heavy. It was rusty and heavy, too heavy for me to pull down to the storage. So I just put it out by the road, hoping somebody would come with a truck and help me get it to storage. Well, a couple of days later, somebody stole it. My brother or his friends that do scrap metal, but they also are addicts. So I reported that to the police. I went to the guy's house. They said he was asleep. I made a recording, put it on YouTube. I have not seen that machine again. My 2011 Dodge Caliber also disappeared from that same lot at 3304 East Hillsborough Avenue. I reported that on the phone, and the city was supposed to get back to me February 27th, but the hackers took that over And I was very overwhelmed. I just turned my back and put my hands up in the sky and said, okay, now they've stole my third car. I believed my brother and sisters were behind it. My son called me and said, Ma, you want to sell your car? His twin sister called me and said, Mom, if you sold your car, how much would you sell it for? And then the car disappeared. So when people start looking at your stuff, they're scavenging. My sister Alva Melreen Atkins, she is the greatest scavenger. She will take your stuff and sell it way underpriced because she has a need. That's just the way she's always been. So now, where we are now, July 26th, we will have been here for a year, because when I started going to the courts and trying to be a little more assertive about them getting me back into my childhood home and reporting the illegal organization, A Plus Properties, and the illegal eviction, they started at the chief judge's office. They started stamping things with a stamp that says Chief Judge Christopher Sabella. And I started talking to people. I was working on my AS degree in paralegal. I started talking to people and asking around about this Sabella character, and it seemed like Christopher Sabella did not exist. Usually when a person exists, you can get information on a person. I went to the internet. There was one picture. So I said, okay, Christopher Sabella is a fake person. This is not a real person, and now they're going to treat me like I'm retarded and really disrespect me. So Chief Judge Ronald Figueroa is not going to deal with me fair-handedly. He put me in the low hand of that little mermaid spirit statue that's outside of the courthouse, and he's not going to deal with me fairly. I believe that they paid him off or said, hey, if you help us steal her trust fund and all her other monies, her USF settlement, her settlement from Morton Plant Meese Hospital, where they kidnapped her, illegally detained her, maliciously labeled her with having schizophrenia, and stole her children, lied on the probable cause statement, whatever they gave to the Pinellas Assistant Attorney General, Trista Sampson, to get my children taken into DCF custody right after birth. Whatever they did, it was all illegal. So now they're trying to get my money, call me crazy, and control my money. So whoever made the offer to Chief Judge Ronald Figueroa, I'm assuming it was somebody in my family. There were fake friends around, like John Waldron, who I used to call my godfather. There was Donnie Dwayne Flowers, who was supposed to be a friend, and he was going to help me find a suitable husband. As I met men, I was trying to get married and take my life up a notch. I would, let him know who I was dating and talk to him about them, but I don't think he ever planned to really help me stabilize my life. So he probably benefited in a great way. I'm alleging now that he was given, trust. He was the trustee over my money, or conservator, or power of attorney. I had prepared a limited power of attorney, handwritten form for Donna, Donna Young of Canada. She is my Lotus birth mentor. And I said, if these people get really crazy and they try to call and make some more false complaints to the Child Protective Services, I will let my two Lotus birth babies, my two home birth babies, June 14th of 2010, Abby was born at 2212 East Mallory Avenue in Tampa, Florida, a property owned by my mother. And that's next to 2210 East Mallory Avenue, which is directly behind the Florida Sentinel. My brother and his corrupt probate attorney, our corrupt probate attorney, because my brother hired Leroy Merkel, probate attorney, to probate the entire estate, all 6 properties that my mother, Dorothy Jean Atkins, and my father, Arthur Atkins, left. Okay? Some kind of way, they combined the 2 pieces of property, and my brother went to Georgia, I'm assuming, and had my grandmother, Irene, sign it over to him. The property belonged to Dorothy Atkins, so how could Irene Scarborough, my mother's mother, sign over property that belonged to Dorothy Jean Atkins? So there's some corruption there too, and I don't know what to do about that. But the whole point is they gave me this false label at the hospital, and that took my life down, all the way down to 0, because if you're considered to be mentally incompetent, then there's not much you can do in life. To add insult to injury, during the family court case, Catherine G. Esrick was the judge for most of the time. I represented myself pro se until Catherine G. Esrick decided, well, until you get a psychological evaluation, you can no longer represent yourself pro se. So once she did that, I guess they have a problem with handwritten motions. I have been trained by the masters of my life. It is important for you to get your opinion, concerns in immediately. So I've learned to just flip over a piece of paper, write motion to whatever, the heading in and for the 13th Judicial Circuit Court, Hillsborough County, Tampa, Florida, and then you write what you want the judge to say. It's the same thing they do when you go to the 6th floor. They give you the little sheet of paper. It just has lines. And so I know how to do that for myself. And I did that for myself. And because I was handwriting things, they're like, oh, yes, she's crazy because she didn't take the time to go to the library and type it up and proofread it and come back. Takes a lot of time to do that. I'm right here, right now. I got a problem right here, right now. Yes, I'm going to turn over a piece of paper and write my problems down. And I expect you to give it the same amount of respect as the typewritten pleadings that you receive. So they started disrespecting me, and they would be laughing and making jokes and delaying giving me proper paperwork. Myronica, one of the clerks at the 13th Judicial Circuit Court, would have to be called because my pleadings were not in the system. So she had a box that when I came to file something, she'd put it in the box. They wouldn't even put it in the computer. So if I went to a different clerk, then they would be like, I can't find what she's talking about. And then my Veronica would go get her box. So I'm assuming and alleging they paid her to keep my pleadings out of the system so that the judges didn't know what was going on. It wasn't until I started going to the chief judge on the 6th floor, handing it to Thomas O'Manzi. He would go through the door and stamp it, claiming that Christina stamped it. You know, I can't tell what's going on behind them doors. I don't know what them people doing. It's a lot of corruption in the 13th Judicial Circuit Court, I am alleging. But see, even if I am so-called crazy, I still have rights, and I'm still supposed to be treated with the same respect as the attorneys that come through there, other citizens that come through that are representing themselves pro se. And they didn't do that. What they did was perform and give me the Truman Show. And that's really terrible. My children and I have suffered greatly, suffering greatly right now in a very, very hot house. We're indoors, we're safe, we're hot. And it's hot. It's hard to get things done when you're uncomfortable, you're sticky. You have to get up and wipe yourself down before you move. And, you wipe yourself down and you're cool just for a few minutes. And then you're getting sticky again. In order to cook hot food, I've got to make a fire. My nails are all dirty and got charcoal under them because where we live, we don't have electricity. And somebody stole the 4-Patriot generator. They would steal my packages from over by Dr. Twiggs's place. Before we moved in there, the addicts were using that building, and he probably didn't know it because his nephew, well, the guy told me he was his nephew. What was that man's name? Kenneth said he was his nephew. So I don't know what the truth is, and I'm telling too many little short stories in the interim. So let's head back over and wrap up what happened to me at the hospital. My rights were violated. They put me in a wheelchair after a forced C-section, rolled me, came in, the doctor from pathology, what was his name, and a lady from risk management. They came, went through the cabinets in my room, and took the 2 placentas of my children that I had requested to take home with me so that I could bury them and plant a tree on the top of them. They stole my personal property, and I wanted to fight for it, but there was a man, security guard, with a bucket of clear liquids, Respiridol and some other shit. I have visited people in the psych ward after having been doped up on those things. They couldn't stand up straight, couldn't close their mouth. And I said, God, please don't let these people stick me with this stuff. And I set my ass in that wheelchair and I was calm because I didn't want to get stuck with any of that stuff that might truly kill my brain cells. I sat down in the psych ward in a wheelchair, just crying and praying. I could not believe my reality. About an hour later, they came and rolled me back up to my hospital room. And the next day, they came and stole my children. They took the placentas. The next day, they came and stole my children. 3 days old. I never got a chance to raise those children. For 10 days, they were in some strange people's house. I asked them to let me be a part of the Rainbow program in Plant City where they keep the mother and the children together. I wasn't white enough to get that privilege. After that, my mom begged me to sign some form. Oh, please sign it. They said if you sign it, they'll let me take the babies home. I said, Mom, these people are lying. You can't tell this is a scam? You can't tell this is a game? Oh, please, Aileen, please. And against my better judgment, to prove to my mom, because I thought I would gain her allegiance after I proved to her that they were lying, I signed it. And they said, no, you're not going to be able to take the babies home. They took my children somewhere. I don't know what they did to my children for 10 days. We are religiously exempt from immunizations, and I'm certain they immunized them. They yanked my son's umbilical cord off before it fell off, tearing his intestinal wall. So for a long time, he had liquid in his navel. It has since healed. My mother did eventually get custody of my children. And then because She had cancer. They refused to allow my mother to adopt my children. If they had allowed my mother to adopt my children, her check that she had been working for 32 plus years would have gone to my children. My brother, 20Court-AleneDortheaAtkins, ended up adopting my children. They terminated my parental rights. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Help me. Help me, help me. I'm telling you all of this because this is now the age of Aquarian. Rights are being restored. Crooked roads are being made straight. So I need help from somebody to get justice. Get justice. Get justice. I want you to know that I do not want you to give anything that is mine, Alene Dorothea Atkins, to anybody else. Not my children, not my siblings. The inheritance is mine. Yes, I have not come to pick it up yet because there's about 10 doppelgangers that are running around the city trying to get a valid driver's license or ID so that they can continue to steal from me. They have been stealing, creating credit card accounts, buying cars in my name, getting apartments in my name, houses in my name. And I am over here suffering with my children, walking everywhere I go. Every time I start a job, for some reason, I can only work a couple of days and I am booted off the job. And I believe behind the scenes, they are encouraging people to